Hello you guys, and welcome back to the KP Kingdom channel. It's me, the KP King himself, and today I'm going to be showing you some changes that I've made to my Chronojet Dragon deck profile. So originally I had done an unboxing of the Chronojet deck, but I decided not to make it because originally I was going to build a Chronofang. However, because of the way the world's happening right now, I made some other investments and I just didn't feel like spending money into the game. However, I've decided since the last 2 months to get back into the game, and I've just picked up this deck. And I'm actually very pleased with it. It's fast, it has a great end game, and the strategy and the playstyle of the deck is pretty unique for Gear Chronicle, but it does stay with its original G theme of striding and really powerful units. So without further ado, let's hop right into this because I'm super excited to show you how I play this deck. First off, we play 4 copies of Chrono Dragon Next Stage. So the real MVP, the main star of the deck that everyone likes to talk about, this card is an amazing endgame finisher. It is what we build most of our strategies around. It's a multiple attacking unit on Vanguard. It gives you extra force markers, it powers up your next unit, and helps set up for your Chronojet kill turn so you can combine this skill with your Chronojet's ability. This is the main grade 4 unit that you're going to be striding into a lot, except some of the unique additions I put in this deck that was inspired. But overall, Chrono Dragon Next Stage helps with the main endgame because just bullying your opponent with this unit and beating them down just gets to a point where they have to constantly guard the attacks, and depending on how they guard, it makes it very difficult for them to defend themselves because you have to plan out for a powerful attack like this while it's sitting on a force 1 marker, and then plan out for how you're going to survive Chronojet Dragon when he gets his power up and his ability to stop sentinels. So this card is the main focus of the deck, and everything around it just synergizes with it so well. Next up, we play 1 copy of Interdimensional Beast Metallica Phoenix. So if you go first, you can't go into your Chrono Dragon Next Stage because it only works if your opponent is a grade 3. So we have Interdimensional Beast Metallica Phoenix, who allows us to go for our first turn stride and just build up some more cards with our hand through its unique triple drive ability. That's all it really does. It's just simply your first stride if you're going first. This way you don't waste one of your Chrono Dragon Next Stages and having to do nothing with it because you won't be able to use stability. And then I play 1 copy of Chrono Tiger Rebellion. Now some of you are wondering, this is a Chronojet deck, why are we playing Chrono Tiger Rebellion? Well, before I delve deep into this card, I just want to say that this card is not Chronofang locked. It's not like Next Stage where you have to have Chronojet underneath it, not Chronojet, Chronofang underneath it. You simply just can stride this unit and use its abilities. And this card actually, I got this idea from some Japanese deck list, but this card is amazing simply because of all the unique skills it has. You can use this card as a finisher, you can use this card to beat down your opponent, you can use this card to retire some things. This card just gives us another way of killing our opponent, except through Next Stage, because if your opponent is just expecting Next Stages every single turn, they're obviously going to set up to survive against that until the point where they can't. So going into that Rebellion really switches up the strategy, and now all the defensive plays that they made to survive the Next Stage turn gets messed up because of Rebellion's abilities. The ability to retire the front row, if you have 1 or less, the ability to weaken shield value, power up the front row. Like, this card overall is amazing, and I had to put it in my deck because of the way that the game is now. With Majesty Lord Blaster, since it gets rid of his own front row or some of the other decks that are front row reliant, this card just, I felt like it needed to be played in the deck, and I'm really glad that I found a way to make space for it. So 1 Rebellion is my special tech, and I'm enjoying it so far. Now for our grade 3s, we play 4 copies of Chronojet Dragon. This is the only grade 3 that we play, but it's the only grade 3 that we need. So obviously this is the other star of the deck, or really what the deck's all about. But Chrono Dragon is really simple. It just makes the deck work. You can stride any of your grade 4s, and all the other cards we have in the deck synergize because it has a Chronojet name. And its ability that's on Vanguard Vanguard that stops sentinels is just really good because you're going to get the power up from the Next Stage, and that alone will make this 28,000 unless you have Force 2 or Force 1 markers, where this could possibly be 38,000 with a booster, being up to 46,000 or more, which makes it really difficult for people to guard with. Especially since a lot of decks that I've noticed now are incorporating the 30,000 critical, so they can't use their largest shield value, so they have to plan out for something else. And the fact that this works on Vanguard Rearguard Circle makes this one of your more offensive units that you can play with on your Chronojet or Chrono Dragon next turns. So So overall, just a really amazing grade 3, and I'd say it still can take on the meta right now. For our grade 2s, we play 4 copies of Smokier Dragon. Smokier Dragon, this card allows us to make our stride plays easier. Since we only play 4 grade 3s in the deck, we can't really stride. Well, we can't really rely on grade 3s for striding because we're not playing stride assistance or the grade 3s in the decks that let us move to our next grade 4. So thankfully to Smokier Dragon, we're able to use him to get our stride cost more efficiently, and then his other ability makes him more aggressive as well, as he gets 15,000 power and he lets you draw if you stroke the same turn. So therefore getting you card advantage, power, and just being an overall great unit. For our next grade 2, we play 4 copies of Steam Mechanic Nabu. So this card is a staple of most Gear Chronicle decks. I feel like because of the awesome Soul Blast abilities that you have, you are going to need Nabu. We mainly use this card to refill up our soul. Her offensive ability that lets you bind a card from the drop zone and prevents your opponent from guarding with grade 1s works out well too, because you can use Nabu and combine with your next stages and your Chronojets, and then basically you have a weird guard restrict turn depending on what you have for your board. But overall, Nabu just helps us get back our resources, and that's what she's meant for. For our last grade 2, I play 4 copies of Steam Scar Urcab. So I know that a lot of Gear Chronicle players or Gear Chronicle mains have walked away from this card or are playing less of it because they want to make space for the stroboscope. But in my opinion, stroboscope is good, but you're trying to kill your opponent as soon as possible. And against Majesty Lord Blaster, since he gets rid of his own front row, you're not going to have to worry about retiring rear guards anyway. And most decks that do have like the pesky or annoying rear guards, they have to spend resources to not only call them out, but also you're taking away from your own card advantage in doing so. And at least with Urcab, since we do play Chrono Tiger Rebellion, we can use this card to set up our Rebellion turns, and he acts as stride assistance. And like I was saying before, unless you have Smokier or if you have another grade 3 in hand for Chronojet Dragon, you don't have any other way of striding unless you feel like paying the 2 and the 1 cost or the 3 1s. But that's an expensive play to make. So Urcab is just a way of striding without having to worry about too much cost. Plus, getting extra card in the form of a drive check is a lot better than actually drawing a card. And Stroboscope, all he does is let you retire, and it's not even in early game. It is an early game retire, but it's a Soul Blast to retire something, and you only get to draw if you're on grade 4. And your opponent usually will snipe your Stroboscope if you're going first. So they just know how to, people just know how to play around it. And I feel like with Urcab, if you just keep calling Urcabs out and applying the pressure with more drive checks, it's more threatening, especially when you go into your Chronojet Dragon turn. So that's why I've decided to stay with 4 Urcab. I don't think it's bad to take out 2 copies of Urcab and, you know, throw stroboscopes in there, but for me, I'd rather just play Urcab and get my extra drive checks, because that's mainly what I prioritize. Now we're at our grade 1s. So our first grade 1, we play 3 copies of Quickie Worker. This card is our recyclable. She recycles our grade 4s back into their deck, and she's a Soul Blaster 2, which is what our Nabus are for. She lets us draw a card every time we recycle, and she just makes sure that we don't ever run out of any of the grade 4s that we run out of. There have been games where sometimes you're going to the late game and you've played all your Chronojet Dragons, you need to get them back into the deck, and that's what she lets you do. So allowing her to recycle your deck to get all your cards back is essentially what she's made for in the deck, and getting us more card advantage. For our next grade 1, we play 4 copies of Chronotooth Tigar. Possibly one of the best cards that Gear Chronicle has. I take that back. This is the best card that grade 1 Gear Chronicle has. Until we get the promo for Gear Chronicle, the one that does the exact same thing except for a Soul Blast, then Chronotooth Tigar is the best version that we have of that card in English. His ability on the Vanguard lets you draw 2 on the next beginning of your turn, just gives you major card advantage right away, and if you're going second, you had the Quick Shield, you essentially got like 4 cards for your grade 2 turn, and you probably won't guard the first attack, so you're going to have a huge hand going into grade 2 going second. This way you won't be as much of a disadvantage as if you were going first. And going first is amazing. Overall, this card gives you just great card advantage and helps you go through your deck a lot faster, since we want to make sure that we find our Chronojet Dragons so that we don't have to worry about having a G assist. But even if we do have to G assist, because of the extra cards this card offers you, it's not as bad, but overall it just really assists in getting us more card advantage for the deck, and that's what we really need to keep it going. And the fact that it calls itself out helps you build board is really amazing too. This way you don't feel as bad when you have to discard all those cards in your hand for the effects of most of your units. For our next grade 1, I play 4 copies of Steam Breath Dragon. So we play 4 copies of Steam Breath Dragon because we need to be able to filter out our deck for Chronojet Dragon. That's the main grade 3 that we want to ride and the only grade 3 that we feel is necessary in the deck, but we're not always going to draw into it. So having Steam Breath Dragon to search out a grade 3 is essentially what this is for. And the fact that you get the 5,000 power off of something that 8 out of 10 of the cards in your deck do is really helpful too, to make it become a good beat stick. Now for our triggers. So for my triggers, I play 2 copies of Ring Ring Worker, 2 copies of Steam Bomber Diggle, then I play 4 copies of Reclaim Key Draco Kid. I then play 4 copies of Steam Guard Cassia. And because we are playing Chronojet, we have to play 4 copies of Steam Maiden Uluru. So my trigger lineup is very simple. I know it's nothing unique or fancy, but the way that I feel about it is I tried playing 12 of the critical triggers, introducing Heart Thumb Worker into the deck, and then I even tried taking out 2 of my Castia for 2 more copies of Heart Thumb Worker because I want to keep that 10 critical in the deck to be as aggressive as possible while I was playing Force 2. But even with all of our draw abilities in the deck, we do sometimes have a low hand, and a lot of these decks that are popular in the game right now, like Night Rose, Shahados Vampire, Majesty Lord Blaster, they have either extremely high powerful attacks or they extremely have a lot of multi-attacks that have high power. Heck, even Vanquisher can do the same thing if the Vanquisher player gets it right. But we need draw triggers in the deck, and I do want to keep my aggression, so I just felt like the standard 8 crit, 4 draw, 4 heal is what was best for the deck in my opinion. The only thing that for anybody else to want to change, 6 crit, 6 draw works out really well too if you feel like you prioritize card advantage more than aggression. You can also play, you can play 3 draw, 7 crit. I've seen some of that. Just take out 2 of the draw trigger sentinels and then put 1 copy of Lucky Pot Draco Kid or Roly Poly Worker in the deck, and then play 2 copies of Heart Thumb Worker for your other sentinels so you can keep your grade 1 spaces. But this is what I felt like was best for me in my play style of the deck, and that's how I wanted to play it. Now, mainly for this deck, when I am playing it, the one marker that I like to go into is Force 1 instead of Force 2. And the reason why I say this is because you already have a lot of multiple attacks with a lot of critical triggers in the deck. So Force 1 and then having all the extra power-up abilities just makes your turn more scary, because even with Force 2 you have the critical, but this deck doesn't get power like that. It's not like Chrono Fang where you're essentially relying on Rebellion to do everything that would make every other deck good, because Rebellion essentially does everything. He lowers shield value, he retires everything, and Chrono Fang just backs all that up. This deck works differently. You already have a multi-attacking Vanguard who gives you 1 really powerful attack with the drive check, and then you get another Vanguard that has a Sentinel Guard ability that you're just setting up for. So I felt like Force 1 is the best way to do it. And this deck can stack Force 1 markers pretty easily, and Force 2 you can't stack because it's just the way the game works. So this was the Chronojet deck that I had built, and this is the one that I'm currently playing and I currently have the most experience with and I enjoy. If there's any changes you think I can make to this deck, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm open to all suggestions. Also, don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And if you have a friend that's interested in building Gear Chronicle, don't forget to share this video with them. This is a good deck I think that any player can see. It's a pretty standard Gear Chronicle deck except for the Rebellion. But overall, this is what I feel like is the best variant of Gear Chronicle for me to play. And I have a lot more videos coming up, you guys, so stay tuned for that. Alright, bye guys.